and welcome to Video Game Hangover. I'm Randy Dickinson, and I'm in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Hello, I am DJ Ross. I am in Mountain View, California.
Each week here on Video Game Hangover, we talk about the games that have been keeping us up at night. This week, those games are Chicory, A Colorful Tale, and Grindstone.
Grindstone.
Yay.
I've been waiting for so long for somebody to tell me what that game is about.
Oh, really?
I don't know. I mean, I just feel like every time I go through the Apple Arcade App Store or whatever, it's like, it's there looking at me.
I have a list. I keep lists in Google Keep on my phone of like all the games I want to play this year and all the games that are coming out in the next couple of months that I want to play. And as I play them, I put little check marks next to them and it drops them to the bottom of the list. So I kind of always have this sort of ever-growing list of games I want to play. And I was rolling through the list of all the ones from this year that I had not played yet, and I just did not feel like I felt a huge motivation to list them, just didn't feel the motivation to play them. So I went back to last year's list, and I was like, what didn't I play from 2020? Because, that was a weird year. And Grindstone was on there. And I was like, oh yeah, Grindstone. People like that game. That's a cool game. Let's play that game. And as it so happened, it coincided with Black Friday and all of those other things, crazy things in terms of like sales happening. And Grindstone was half price. So we get a Grindstone week. This is a good week.
Oh, well, good for them.
Yeah. So I didn't tell you what the game is about, but I just told you how I landed on playing the game. Yeah.
Well,
we'll answer that big question.
We'll get to it eventually.
Yeah. One thing I do want to we keep doing sort of like extra life updates at the top of the show here. It continues to grow. It continues to be this awesome thing that I see tick up every single week. So I do want to share that Team VGH this year has raised $3,000 for Extra Life. Yeah, that is. We were at a new high score last week. The score continues to get higher. we are going to have to beat $3,000 next year. Thank you so much. That's so exciting. I want to thank everybody who has chipped in to get us to this point, and certainly the folks that have chipped in over the last couple of days and weeks to push us further and further over what we've ever raised in the past. Just a staggering number, all for a very good cause, and we thank our community immensely for their support in this.
It's unbelievable. It sounds cliche, but I just can't believe it. That's so much. We've gone from, I think, 5 times our fundraising goal, and this would put us at 6. So yeah, incredible.
We can continue to support donations if you're still interested in chipping in a couple of bucks to push that score up even higher. We can accept donations for Extra Life through December 31st. You continue to go to VGHangover.com/extralife for donation links, and we would love your support to help this awesome charity anytime before the end of the year.
Yeah,
cool. We have a Drunktacular episode coming. This is a weird pivot. We go from like, look at this charitable fun thing that we did to, hey, we're going to get drunk and take your calls and questions.
Yeah. Yeah. It's December, so it seemed like a thing to do.
Yeah, and we are multifaceted individuals. We are not one thing defines us. We like helping kids, and we also like
we don't always have
beverages.
To be charitable.
Right. Sometimes we can be a little selfish. So we would like your support in that endeavor as well. Please save the date, Friday, December 10th at 9 p.m. We are going to be recording our Drunktacular episode. You can watch the live stream of that at twitch.tv/VGHangover.
Oh, that's next week.
It is. It's coming right up. If you would like to contribute by giving us a question or a little conversation starter or anything you want to kind of get on our radar and have DJ and I kind of opine over on the podcast, you can do that at 682-999-VGH1. You can leave us a voicemail there. You can actually text that number too and send us a little text message.
Yeah.
You can also email us. You can tweet us. You can drop into our Discord and leave us a message there. You can find links to all of those things at VGHangover.com. The important thing to note, though, is you have until December 10th to make that happen. So the clock is ticking.
Yeah, about a week left to go. So spend a couple days thinking about a good one, but don't forget to send it in before it's too late because we want to make sure everybody gets on the show this year.
Yeah.
They don't have to be, I mean, a lot of people ask video game related questions. That's fun. But they don't have to be video game related. They don't even need to be questions. Sometimes people call in and just sing a song, and it's very entertaining. So you have a whole lot of options with this.
Yep. DJ and I have on occasion sung back. So, anything's possible.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good time for everybody. So, we just want to encourage people to participate and join in. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. It says here on the outline, corrections and regrets. I don't know what specifically that pertains to, but I'll leave that to you, DJ. What is that?
Welcome to our new segment, corrections and regrets. No, this is just a quick thing. Last week, I was talking about Halo Infinite and the multiplayer beta. I made a comment that while the multiplayer beta released early, the campaign mode had been delayed into next year, which is not entirely true. It turns out that the campaign is still coming out this December. So that's great. Yeah. It's only campaign co-op and also the Forge mode in multiplayer that have been delayed until next year, unfortunately. Oh. But good news for Halo fans. They'll still be able to find out what Master Chief is getting up to in just a few days. So cool. We regret the error.
Well, thank you for fact-checking yourself and keeping yourself honest on that, DJ.
Well, I was just hanging out this week, and then they released this Halo Infinite campaign launch trailer, and I was like, why are they releasing that so early? Oh, no. So I went to check the news and just figured out, got the dates mixed up there.
Yeah, gotcha.
Anyway,
so are you still
everything.
Playing Halo? Have you continued to sort of check in on the multiplayer experience there, or was that a bit of an isolated obsession for you?
I dipped back into it a little bit, but I mean, it's not like I'm playing it 24/7. It's going to be around. I'm trying to pace myself.
Right. You're just trying to fill the hours until that Final Fantasy expansion comes out.
Oh, yes. Just a few hours to go at this point. Maybe I should go fill them with some Halo.
Good. Don't commit to anything you can't just walk away from.
Right. Yeah. Well, those are nice little bite-sized sort of matches. Be ready to go once the servers come back online. Just be like, sorry, guys. Got to take off. I can't capture any more flags this evening.
Excellent. Cool. Well, it's a little sad that this is our sort of last proper episode of the year. You won't get to talk about that Final Fantasy thing until next year.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I'll definitely be talking about it, but on some level, it kind of works out. I mean, I'm disappointed I won't be able to talk about it right away. But whenever the things come out, they're so dense. There's just so much. I feel like I almost can't talk about it after just spending a week with it. So by the time we're back in the studio next year, I'll have a few, almost a month of this thing under my belt. We'll have plenty to talk about.
Nice. All right, cool. Well,
look forward to that.
On the bright side. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I feel like the community has been just so excited for it. I don't know if people outside the community understand just the magnitude of this thing. It's more or less like
I can confirm that we do not.
Right. It's like, remember how excited people were for the final season of Breaking Bad? Or like Game of Thrones before everybody actually saw the final season of Game of Thrones. It's basically that. It's the culmination of 10 years of storytelling in this game. So people are losing their minds a little bit. But anyway, I don't want to get too sidetracked. That is just trying to make it relatable to people who are not really that dialed into it.
Yeah. I will admit that, at a busy day at work, didn't get a chance to check in on our Discord through much of the afternoon, and finally popped it open as I was walking, out of work, out to my car, and I'm like, oh, what's happened on the Discord today? There's a lot of dialogue here, and I'm scrolling, and it's Final Fantasy, and I'm like, oh, this must be the week. It's coming.
It's happening.
It is imminent. The enthusiasm is palpable.
You're going to feel it in the air.
Yeah, absolutely. And, and in the internet.
Well, stay tuned for plenty of that in 2022.
Cool. May you have just uninterrupted server time this week.
Thank you. How nice of you to say it.
Thank you. I would never deny you. Cool. All right. Well, let's dig into games we've actually played and not games we're just excited about playing, DJ. What have you been playing this week?
I finally got to spend some time with Chicory. Came out earlier this year.
Yeah.
A game about color. And I don't know how else I would summarize it. It's a game about a whole lot of things. Super fun. It kind of plays like a Zelda game, but with sort of the aesthetics of a blank coloring book. The premise is that you exist in this world, what's it called, the Luncheon Kingdom or something like that. Everything in the game is like food related names for whatever reason. But in this world, there is this magical paintbrush, and somebody whose responsibility it is to wield this magical paintbrush, known as the wielder. In that case, that would be Chicory, the title character. Mm-hmm. But you do not play as Chicory. You play as the janitor who works in sort of Chicory's wielder tower, who just kind of keeps things clean. And one day, for whatever reason, you realize that Chicory has decided to give up the brush, which controls all of the color in the world. So the entire world has suddenly become just devoid of all colors. It's just like black and white, like a fresh coloring book. And you, as the loyal janitor, take it upon yourself to pick up this brush and figure out sort of like why Chicory decided to give it up, and maybe you can teach yourself how to use this brush and become the next wielder. And from there, it just turns into this kind of epic journey of like sort of self-discovery and a lot of surprising sort of introspection and figuring out what it means to be a wielder and what expectations are involved in that. It's surprisingly like heartfelt for a little or a game that looks like you're just controlling a little cartoon dog with a paintbrush.
Yeah. That was I think that's my take on it. I've seen this game sort of teased a number of times on like the wholesome directs and stuff like that. And I did that Cozy Games conference at PAX a couple of years ago, and I think this was one of the games they were teasing at the time. So yeah, everything I've seen about it just looks like you said, it looks like a sort of a coloring book waiting to be colored, so it's all black and white images, but it is very much sort of occupied by this cute little cartoon dog with a paintbrush. So when you start talking about all of these sort of story layers and journey of self-discovery, I feel like maybe that was not promised by the images released of this game thus far. That's a surprising pivot.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to figure out what to talk about in like involving this game because there's just so much going on in it. Like purely gameplay wise, it is more or less, it's like a Zelda game because you've got this big expansive overworld. You've got a bunch of little settlements on it and fun NPC characters to talk to. And the game more or less boils down to going around to different areas and solving environmental puzzles relating to your paintbrush. And as you sort of progress through an area and complete the like main dungeon or the boss or whatever, you unlock more and more abilities for your paintbrush, which lets you progress to more areas and pretty familiar sort of progression. Mm-hmm. But probably the coolest thing is like the central mechanic is you have this magical paintbrush and you use it to like interact with objects by like coloring them in. And they come up with very clever ways to use this paintbrush. In some cases, there will be plants that grow when you paint them, and they will also just like shrink back down to a little seed if you erase them, because you also have a magic paint eraser, I guess. Eventually, you gain abilities that let you swim around and paint like in Splatoon, so that gives you a whole bunch of different new traversal options. And not to give away too many of the eventual puzzle mechanics, but there's a lot of really clever stuff they do with it. A lot of really interesting puzzles that kind of present themselves in like it feels a lot like a Zelda game rather than, I don't know, some other game you might play that where the puzzles are a little more explicit, if that makes sense. Like, it's not so much that you walk into a room and there's like a bunch of boxes arranged in some way, and you just go, oh, okay, so got another one of these box mazes or whatever.
Sure.
A lot of it is just you walking into an environment. Sure.
Yeah. And I love that about Tomb Raider. Don't get me wrong. It's not a complaint, just an observation, but yeah.
Sure. Like, there's a time and a place for a good box maze.
Yeah, absolutely.
But a lot of it is, it's not quite on Portal's level either, but you'll like walk into a place and look around and go, okay, so here's a couple of flowers I can paint. Like, do I need to jump across the tops of them to get to like this platform over here, or is there something I'm overlooking? It just feels like there are a lot of moments where I went into a room and I just wasn't sure what I was supposed to do. So that was kind of fun and refreshing.
Cool. And does it sort of incentivize kind of experimenting and kind of playing around with the mechanics you have available to sort of figure out what the objective is, or is it?
Yeah, it was good.
What again? That's another one of those things that I don't think sort of was promised by the trailers released of Chicory thus far. Is that I truly did not feel like there was anything sort of puzzling about it. I in my brain I had like, oh, this is Epic Mickey, and for those who didn't play it, I think that game is a couple of years old at this point, probably 10, 11 years old. You're Mickey Mouse with a magical paintbrush, a la Fantasia, and you had to sort of like, color in missing things. And it wasn't really, you weren't necessarily solving puzzles or anything like that. It was really just kind of Mickey Mouse doing cute stuff. I think I expected Chicory to sort of be pretty approachable in that way, and it sounds like it's certainly has a lot more operating under the hood.
Yeah, I didn't play Epic Mickey, but you can sort of see where you're going with that.
Yeah.
So you've got these puzzles, which are fun to sort of like wrap your head around. But the fact that you just have this paintbrush the entire time is kind of adds this whole extra dimension to just the entire game, because everywhere you go is in black and white. And as you are like solving a puzzle or even just like messing around, you have this separate cursor that controls the paintbrush. So that's how you actually solve these puzzles and everything. But at any moment, you can just go and start like coloring in something that has been reduced to black and white using like a palette of like 4 different colors. And there's not really, like in a lot of cases, there isn't really incentive to just fill things in. Like sometimes there are certain things that you do have to, that will like have some benefit if you color it in a certain way. But I found myself a lot of the time just, going through some of the towns and thinking like, oh, maybe I should, everything looks so drab, I should just start painting stuff in. Maybe it'll look a little more lively. And I'd find myself just getting kind of distracted from the main quest and taking breaks every once in a while to just like do some painting, which was very surprising.
And that, specifically in that situation, the objective is not necessarily to paint it in. It's just a thing you can do and that you find satisfying doing.
Yeah.
But that's not your goal. Okay, cool. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So it definitely sort of functions as a coloring book in that way, right?
Yeah, it was very surprising because I was, trying to figure out what's going on in this game. Like, I guess you just go and do dungeons and solve puzzles and everything. But then there was like this whole painting angle. And for the first few hours, I was just thinking like, oh, so am I expected to be coloring this in? Like, is the goal of the game to just restore everything to full color or whatever? And it's not really, but you could do that if you wanted to, and it just turned into this kind of entertaining, fun way to take a break from everything. Everywhere you go in the game has kind of its own unique 4-color palette, which is kind of fun. A lot of the time it's like these very bright and vibrant colors, but depending on where you go, like at one point you go to a snowy mountain and your palette changes to these really pale like blues and greens. And there's a swamp that has just like kind of dark browns and like purples and everything. And then probably my favorite is, it seems like whenever you go underground, it just gives you these incredibly bright sort of neon colors for whatever reason. Which is especially fun because if you color in like crystals growing underground, they'll just glow in whatever color you painted them with. So in a lot of cases, like whenever I would go underground, I would just spend extra time just filling everything in, be like, all right, that looks pretty good. You did a pretty good job here.
Excellent.
But it's super fun, and it just, like, the whole game remembers how you have painted it. So as you go through these areas and, like, backtrack back and forth, you will just continue to walk past, like, your previous work. Like, oh yeah, I remember painting that tree. Maybe I should paint in a few more trees while I'm here, or whatever.
And how is the mechanic of painting handled? Is it just sort of like touch it and it fills it in, or do you have to sort of, I don't know, color it in with the joystick or something like that?
It's surprisingly robust, especially if you're playing it on a controller. I played this on PS4. I think it's out on PS4 and Steam. So I imagine the Steam version you must be able to play with a mouse, which would be interesting. But just using a controller, it's pretty wild what they've come up with in terms of just how you manage it. So you have, like, the right stick controls the paintbrush, and then, like, shoulder buttons control, like, different aspects of the brush, like size and color. And you can use just very careful movements to paint very precise areas. You can even zoom in if you need a little more precision. But then you have all these sort of wacky other sort of gestures you can do. If you, like, double tap on the paint button, it will just put down a huge splotch of whatever color you're using. Sometimes, like, usually when you're painting, it will kind of attempt to keep you from going over, like, thicker lines, if that makes sense. Like, if you think of it as a coloring book. So it can kind of tell if you're just trying to fill in, like, one of the characters, or, like, a house, or a specific object on the screen. But if you get really aggressive with the stick, you can just, like, have it paint over everything, if you feel like. So it's actually a pretty capable painting system. I was impressed. And later on, you get a bunch of other tools that help you. Like, you can do different patterns, you can do fills. It's just really surprised. Especially compared to the first few hours of the game, where I thought, oh man, well, it's going to take forever to sort of, like, paint everything. And ultimately, I didn't end up, like, painting the entire world, because I think that would be quite an investment. But there were definitely occasions where I thought, well, this screen, I've already painted so much on here, I should just go and do the rest. And then I would sort of develop this sort of mental picture of what they were supposed to look like. So I think in the swamp area, for instance, all of the water I would just end up painting blue. So I go to the next screen, because it kind of, like, you kind of navigate between screens, like in a Zelda game. So you finish one screen and everything kind of scrolls off to the side, and you're presented with the next screen, which hasn't been painted yet. And I just see all the water there, and I go, oh, well, time to get to work and make this all the correct color. So I just, like, start doing that until I decided to move on.
Excellent. Oh, that's cool. That certainly sounds like it's way more than I ever thought this game was going to be.
Yeah, it was super fun. I don't know if you have to have, like, an inclination towards, like, painting or doing coloring books to really appreciate that. But it was such just a different thing to have in a game, just to have this side activity that is kind of it, like, ties in with the themes of the game, but also it is just kind of, like, there for your own amusement. So it's really unusual.
Cool. Sounds like fun.
Yeah, it was really good. The game goes out of its way, it seems like, to just be very, like, accommodating and inviting to people. And that it really feels like it is a game that you're just supposed to, like, enjoy from start to finish. It's not supposed to like, throw up barriers that prevent you from enjoying certain aspects of it. And it does this in a lot of ways, and one of the first ones that you run into is just, like, the options menu has so many little switches that are, like, that you can adjust the difficulty of the boss battles to the point where you can just, like, completely skip the boss battles if you feel like it.
Oh, wow.
There's an option which I liked, which is you can turn on or off just, like, wet noises. Because you do a lot of painting, so there's a lot of paint, like, slopping around all over the place. And I think the menu option is something like, would you like to turn off wet noises that some players may find like disturbing or gross? So it just gives you that option. And then there's sort of the usual stuff like, flashing screens and screen shake and vibration and, just all these little kind of usability features, which you don't really see in a lot of games, but it seems like they really were taking care to make sure that there was not going to be anything that like prevented people from playing this game or from enjoying it.
What a wholesome approach to accessibility.
Yeah.
Cool.
I was really into it. There's also a very good like hint system in that there are all these phone booths scattered around the luncheon kingdom, or I don't know if it's a kingdom, but the whole area. And when you go into one of the phone booths, you call your parents who live in one of the settlements, and you basically just ask your mom for help, which is like, it's a very nice conversation. It's like your character sort of chats with your mom a little bit, and then it asks you, do you want to ask your mom for help? So it's being very nice. It's not just like dumping sort of hints on you, because that can also be kind of unwelcome depending on what kind of player you are. But then your mom will be like, oh, well, maybe like this is probably the thing you should be trying to do next. And how about that? And she'll give you some general guidance. And then you'll slowly see like your dad's paw start to reach over from off screen, because your dad is a little raccoon, and he like starts tapping your mom like, all right, oh, your dad wants to talk now. You want me to put him on? And this is kind of like your obsessive dad who, if your mom's hint wasn't clear enough for you, he will generally give you a much more specific piece of advice, which sometimes boils down to like, oh, you need to go 2 screens over and 1 screen up, and there'll be this thing, and you need to do this thing when you get there, which I think is
that's great too.
Which is hilarious, because it's such a fun way to just integrate that into the game, and it's also just a great way of having this sort of multi-level hint system. And like sometimes, I got through the whole thing without really, relying too much on these hints, but there were times when I just thought, well, just can you tell me the general direction on the overworld where I should be headed at the moment? So just call my mom, and she'd be like, oh yeah, you should maybe check out the northeast section because you haven't been there yet. I was like, great.
And if that's not explicit enough for you, your dad will get on and really point you in the right direction.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's great.
So that was super fun. And again, it's just like another thing that sort of ensures people will not be, stuck or frustrated for too long.
Right. Cool. Well, this sounds like a delight. I need to play this.
It was really good. Yeah. I really enjoyed the puzzles. I love the painting aspect. The story is very good. Like I was saying, it's surprisingly heartfelt and sincere, and not in like a really cheesy way as you might expect this to go. It's not like, well, what was that game? It Takes Two, where there's a talking book trying to repair your relationship.
Sure.
But you get into all these conversations with other characters about, like, I'm just having a hard time lately dealing with, potentially becoming the new brush wielder or whatever, and they will just have a chat about it. And it sounds like some conversation that actual people would have, and not something that was just written to like be in the next Kingdom Hearts or whatever. So I really enjoyed it. Yeah, it was very, very good all the way through.
Cool. That sounds like a good time.
Yeah. Well, I forgot. So this was a surprise, and maybe the thing that I most appreciated when it comes to like just general usability is that whenever you finish a chapter in this, or rather, whenever you're about to start a new chapter, it goes like chapter 2, and it has the title of the chapter, and then it gives you 2 options. One is like start, and then the other is save and quit. And a surprising number of times I was like, you know what? I'm going to save and quit. I'm just going to take a break. Because like, how often do you get into that weird spot in a game where you're just like, oh, I've just been through this traumatic boss battle. Here comes another chapter. Like, do I save? If I quit now, do I have to watch this cutscene again? And then you just end up, I don't know, it's like half an hour later, you're playing way longer than you ever intended to because you're just not sure when is a safe point to back out of the game.
Right.
So I was like, oh,
Yep.
it's just telling me like this might be a good time to just take a break and go to bed or whatever. And I really appreciated that. So that was terrific. I would love to see more games do that.
Responsible consumption of video games.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. I'm Googling this now, and it's the same developer as Wandersong. Did you ever play that?
Yeah. I didn't,
Yeah.
although there was a kind of musically inclined character in this that looks suspiciously familiar. Suspiciously similar to the main character in Wandersong.
I had a lot of fun with that game. That was good. It was, I think, in a similar way, was sort of presented as a bit of a fairy tale, kind of exploration based, talking to villagers and stuff like that. And you're trying to, if I remember correctly, sort of assemble a band to unify a town or something like that. And it had a fun kind of, singing lead character and a really interesting kind of control scheme for being able to control the sound of his voice and the pitch of his songs and stuff like that. It was cute.
Yeah. Yeah, I might,
Cool.
This actually sort of got me curious about it. I might check it out at some point after playing this, because I just thought like everything about this was so well done.
Yeah.
The soundtrack by Lena Raine from who did the Celeste soundtrack is also extremely good. Hear a little bit.
Can't go wrong with
that.
a Lena Raine soundtrack.
It's true. It's true. Or I don't know if you can go wrong. I have yet to hear that soundtrack. So this is very good, though. I really enjoyed it.
Nice. Well, cool.
Yeah. I'm so glad I got around to it, because I kept hearing people talk about this throughout the year, very frequently in the context of, oh no, not enough people play this game, so it's not going to be on anybody's like game of the year list. Like, people are just afraid that it's going to like not get recognition. So I felt like I kind of owed it just because of how enthusiastically people were talking about it, and I'm super glad I played it. It was really good.
Oh, good. Nice. Yeah, I love it, and it's fun sort of this week to kind of be at the end of November, early December, and some of the outlets are starting to sort of assemble and publish their best of lists. I love kind of scouring through those, going, I've never even heard of that. You know, a lot of games kind of wash up on our shore here at Video Game Hangover, and we try to, give a little bit of time to the ones that pique our curiosity and that we can fit into our lives. But yeah, man, it feels like every year we get to the end and there's like, oh man, there's 6 games on this list I've never heard of before. How is that possible? How did I miss that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, I'm really glad I was able to squeeze it in. Man, there's so much less like side stuff in this as well that I'm kind of actually glad about, because now there's stuff I can go back and do even after I finish the game. So there's more out there. There's more stuff to color in.
Great. Color the whole game. I wonder if anybody's done that. Is there like a completely colored in playthrough somewhere on the internet?
I'm sure somebody must have done it, which is kind of frightening, because it is not. It's no small task to fill in the entire map. I was wondering actually if I don't know if this is why, but if it seems like such an obvious like game to be on the Switch, just because like that's where all the wholesome games live. I was wondering if maybe like the Switch wouldn't be able to keep up with just the sheer amount of like painting that you do, and the game has to keep track of for whatever reason, because it's like a Zelda-sized map, but it just remembers how you have painted every individual little tile of it. It just seems like a lot to remember. But I don't know how video games work. That was just just some crackpot theory I had.
Sure. You just hope that they do when you turn them on, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it does seem like that would be a lot to ask. Particularly in, big budget video games where I do a thing and leave that area and then come back and everything that I did is sort of like undone and back to what it was before. And I'm like, why can't you remember what I've done?
Yeah.
Usually it's like, how is that monster alive again?
Oh yeah. No, you'd be into this. There are no monsters anywhere. I mean, there's the occasional boss fight, which are not even really like, I mean, they're boss fights, but they're sort of boss fights in the same way that, Undertale had boss fights, if that makes sense. They're just like a thing you do. Anyway.
Cool.
Chicory, very, very good.
Cool. Well, I need to put that on one of those lists then, apparently.
Put on the list.
Yep. Cool. I played quite a bit of Grindstone over the last couple of days. That has been a really good time. It's developed by Cappy, who had previously made some very good games. They are responsible for the Super Brothers Sword and Sorcery EP. They did other things I can't think of right now, unfortunately. Below, they did that.
Yeah.
So they in general have made some cool, fun games. What's the one I'm trying to think of? Super Time Force. That's the cool one that they did that I played a lot of.
Yeah.
They make good games. This is, it looks like on the surface, it looks like a match 3 game because you get kind of a grid occupied by sort of color-coded little monsters. You have a warrior. If I remember correctly, his name is George. And he is, basically he's your player on the map. And it looks like you're trying to sort of like line up groups of little monsters that are all the same color that you're trying to sort of like take out by George. But what you're really doing is you're looking for ways to kind of navigate through a field of kind of color-coded monsters in a way that allows you to link together like a procession of fighting, of you basically sort of marching from square to square as your little player and hacking and slashing through these little monsters, which the game calls jerks and creeps. Trying to sort of take out as many of them as humanly possible. If you can link together 10 or more, George will go on a little sort of like murderous rampage with his sword and sort of swipe through the collection of them. The game will drop in a grindstone, which is this little color-coded gem onto the field in some random place. You then have to kind of make your way to the grindstone, which is a form of kind of in-game currency. You use that to spend on upgrades and other things that are available to you. If you want to refill your health, you have to go to a pub between levels and buy a beer, and the beer will top off your hearts and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
There's also a cool function in that the grindstone allows you to sort of change your color alignment. So if you have a series of kind of blue little creeps and jerks that you're trying to sort of hack and slash your way through, and you've run out of them and you still want to continue to sort of rack up some more, if you can get to the grindstone at the end of your little procession of blue guys, that will allow you to change the color, and then maybe you can take on a bunch of yellow guys or red guys, and that allows you to go for sort of longer chains of creeps and jerks that you're trying to sort of axe out at the game. Each level has a par, so you're trying to sort of, you got to get 50 to finish this level and move on to the next one. And much like kind of a sort of like what was the one that it reminded me of? Oh, Slay the Spire. You're trying to climb a mountain, you're ascending a mountain to the top, and you're encountering even more sort of assertive monsters and creeps and jerks as you're making your way up to the top of the mountain. The game is really good about sort of incentivizing kind of risky play. You can only take 3 hits from an angry monster.
Wow.
And there's different sort of qualifiers that allow you to that provoke monsters into sort of attacking you. You have different ways of sort of defending yourself occasionally. But if you get hit 3 times in the course of a couple of matches or in a single game, you lose everything you've collected up to that point, all your gemstones, all your progress through that level. And you go back to the base of the mountain and you have to kind of drink away your pain at the pub. What was my point?
I was going to ask, you're okay with that?
It has that, yeah. I think I'm okay with it in the sense that it sort of feels like, again, it feels like a Slay the Spire kind of thing, where it feels like, I'm like, I learned, and this is sort of how the best roguelikes are, I think, are designed to work, and that you take enough information from that situation. Like, I learned something there. I should have gone left when I should have gone right. I should have picked red when I should have picked blue. Maybe you play a little more conservatively. Maybe you don't go out of your way to try to pick up 10 extra kills and grab that extra gemstone on the way out the door.
Sure.
It's a risk reward kind of situation, and I think the game is really good at sort of incentivizing those things. It will, like I said, occasionally drop a treasure chest onto the playfield. Of course, nowhere near you. It's on the other side of the board, and you have sort of the temptation of that unlocked exit. Man, I can go for the exit right now. It's just a few spaces away. I have all of this stuff, all of these resources, all of these grindstones that I've collected, a little bit of money, a few things that I can do, a blueprint for a new weapon, which are super exciting when you get those. Those are rarely sort of doled out, so when you get one, you want to bring that back to the pub as well and actually turn that into a craftable weapon that you can then take into the next level. But oh man, there's a treasure chest over there. I wonder what's in it. So you just sort of make do I go for the exit? Do I maybe take a shot at trying to navigate my way across the room over to that treasure chest and open it, and hopefully there's something cool in there. And yeah, sometimes you get your ass handed to you and you're like, nope, should not have gone for the treasure chest. And sometimes you find yourself sort of stuck in a corner and you're like, cool, I got the chest. Now how do I get out of this room? Because you still have to make your way to the exit.
Right.
So yeah, it is. It's fun. It does sort of push all the right sort of puzzle solving, risk reward. Oh man, I made a bad choice, or like, dude, should I make that choice? Kind of little things in my brain that apparently I'm a sucker for in a video game.
Huh. That sounds cool. It sounds a lot like. Did you ever play Ticket to Earth?
Ticket to Earth. It sounds familiar, but I don't think I've played it, no.
It was like this interesting kind of hybrid of... I forget if I would call it Match 3, or like... It was a little bit Match 3, and a little bit sort of like Final Fantasy Tactics or XCOM or whatever, and that you're moving guys around a grid. But it sounds similar, because you would move people around, and by moving them over continuous paths of the same color tiles, they would charge up, like they would have these 4 different attacks, each with their own colors, and you'd use the tiles to charge up whatever attacks they had. So it was like kind of like a puzzle game, but with this extra dimension to it, that there was like combat taking place, and you had to move very carefully in order to be effective at all in combat. So
oh, cool. I'm looking at screenshots of Ticket to Earth right now, and it looks surprisingly similar.
Yeah, but especially when you started describing like
Grindstone.
You're so close to completing a map, and then a treasure chest drops somewhere else. And because I remember a lot of situations in that where you're like, oh, we're like really down to the wire here. We're just barely going to complete this objective as is. Or we could go get this shiny thing that just appeared. That would be dangerous, but it's really shiny. We want it.
The game is really good at sort of telegraphing those little moments too, and that the character that you play, George, is very expressive. He's all the animation and all the artwork in it has a really cool, like early 2000s kind of Adult Swim kind of vibe. Mm-hmm. It looks a lot like, I don't know if you remember the show Super Jail on Adult Swim. It looks a little bit like that. So yeah, it all has kind of a Saturday morning cartoon kind of animation aesthetic to it, and that George himself is this sort of like big muscle bound hunk of a man, shirtless from the waist up. He is he's got a funny little one of the flappy hats on with the ear flaps kind of thing, so that softens him up a little bit. But when he goes on these rampages, he's just a Hulk with a sword kind of slashing through all the little monsters who themselves are all sort of individually animated and kind of cute and funny. Yeah, so as you wear down your health, you get to that last heart. You've got 3 hearts. You get to that last one. George then has a slump in his shoulders, and he's breathing a little heavy, and will occasionally take his hat off and kind of wipe his face with it and stuff like that. So, it really telegraphs, man, you're on your last heart here. Make smart choices. Do not do anything dumb. But, oh, man, there's a treasure chest calling your name.
But what if I did something dumb?
Right. So it's good. I think again the game, it could just be Bejeweled, right? I mean, it could just be something that as sort of like aesthetically kind of lean and efficient as an experience like that. And Bejeweled's a fun game. It's a classic for a reason. But
sure.
This takes the experience of kind of occupying control of George to a whole different level, and really makes you kind of sympathize for him and weigh his pain and anguish and his rapidly depleting health against my desire to see what's inside the treasure chest.
And you just play as this one guy. You never get like any party members or anything?
Not that I've encountered thus far. I've put quite a few hours into it. The puzzles as you sort of ascend the mountain are all numbered, and I'm up to like the 30th number or something like that. So, so far it has just been George.
Interesting.
Yeah, you can, if you're a glutton for punishment, you can hit the par, unlock the door, but continue to sort of navigate your way around the room by sort of connecting colors and picking up gemstones. Again, here's the risk reward. So you've hit your par, door's unlocked. You're being a dummy by not going through the door, but you're trying to sort of scrounge up resources. You're trying to pocket gemstones as much as possible, and it's super satisfying to take out sort of giant strings of these enemies because the animations are super fast and fun. There's a big chunky noise as he swings his sword. You have a couple of tools that you can bring into each kind of puzzle encounter with you that give you kind of special moves and stuff like that. So, again, I think the game is just built in such a way that it really like gets you to sort of ignore every video gamer instinct you have for self-preservation, and keep sort of incentivizing you to like just push a little bit harder to go for like, one more gemstone or whatever's in the box or a couple more resources to unlock the next blueprint and stuff like that. So it's, again, I think as a mobile experience, and I think it started its life as a mobile game. It was on Apple Arcade at launch. I'm playing it on the Switch. You can see, I could sort of imagine that all of those things would be just sort of devilishly built to keep you playing this game and keep you kind of, putting quarters into the console.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's super fun. And again, I think it on its best way, it sort of reminds me of Slay the Spire. And a lot of the stuff in Slay the Spire is you pushing for just a little bit more or being a little more risky to try to, pull some bigger reward out of an encounter, knowing full well that it could just completely wipe you out and send you back to the base of the mountain.
Wait, so you said you're like on puzzle 30 or whatever?
Yeah.
But if you fail, you get kicked all the way back to the start, so like puzzle 1?
No. You have to redo number 30.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so if you spend a bunch of time in there, if you hit your par, you've collected the treasure chest and a couple of other cool goodies, but you keep sort of staying in the room and keep navigating your way around and knocking out bad guys, the longer you stay in there, the game makes the enemies a little more aggressive. So occasionally, sometimes you'll get the little monsters in the room. They just more or less kind of stand there and kind of stand around and politely wait for you to come smash them. But sometimes they get angry, they get furious, so they get a little kind of animation, little fist stuff, little like fire coming out of their head. Yeah. And if you end any sort of collection of moves next to one of them, they'll attack you.
Oh no.
So you have to navigate your way around so that you finish on a color or collection of colors, not within sort of the striking distance of one of those angry enemies. The longer you stay in a room, the more you keep taking out their friends, more and more of them get angry and angry, and there's fewer safer places for you to stand without getting attacked. But there's really good rewards if you can stay in the room long enough.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, of course.
I want to do that.
So again, risk reward. So the longer you stay in there, the longer you sort of like beat up all their friends, the angrier they get. But holy cow, the game just keeps dropping really cool, fun things in the board for you to maybe risk trying to pick up on your way out.
Oh man, I'm into it. I like whenever you realize you've gone one step farther than you should have, and you're like, oh, that was it. That was the point of no return, and then you're just in it.
Yeah. I get in my head about some of these too, where I'm sort of like, okay, well, I see the path. I'm sort of like, I'm looking on the screen and I can kind of chart my way to the destination, to the thing I want to pick up, but it doesn't put me in sort of an advantageous place to be able to get to the exit. And it is done sort of like Bejeweled, as you sort of wipe out a row of bad guys. They clear out and another collection of them randomly sort of drop in from the top of the screen and kind of compress everything down. So I get in my brain where I'm trying to sort of like forecast, like, okay, if I take all those guys out, the guys that are above will drop down one level. Well, there's two there. They'll drop down 2 levels. And I'm just trying to sort of plot, like, do I have an exit strategy? I know I can get to the thing I want to pick up, but how the hell am I going to get out of this room? And I keep trying to forecast what the game is going to do. And I'm maybe not smart enough or intuitive enough or just can't contain that much stuff in my brain to be able to sort of see it through and end up just angering myself and typically and painting myself into a corner, furiously holding on to a treasure chest and hoping I can make my way to the exit.
Maybe like 20 hours from now, you'll just be able to like see all the way to the end. Like, oh yeah, I just see every level of monster. I'm already like 50 steps ahead of these guys.
Sure, it's that Rain Man animation of him sitting at the table and seeing all the calculations in the air and stuff like that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what it's going to be. Yeah,
nice.
One could only hope.
Well, man, it's been a while since I played a match 3. Maybe this is it. Maybe this is the match 3 for 2021.
Yeah,
or 2020, as it were.
Super satisfying. I'm having a really, really good time with it. It's one of those ones where it's just like, geez, why didn't I play this a year ago? But I'm so glad I found it and have gotten some time with it this week.
Nice.
Yeah. Cool. I was Googling too, and I found that Cappy did another puzzle game a couple of years ago. It was a PS3 exclusive.
Oh boy.
Yeah, called Critter Crunch. And looking at
I
it,
played that. That was ridiculous.
Did you play Critter Crunch?
Yeah.
Ridiculous in what way?
It was just like, it was like another, I don't know if it was exactly match 3, but it was such.
It looks like it on the screen.
Like,
yeah, I'm looking at images of it.
It was such a like PlayStation Network, Xbox Live Arcade game, if that makes sense. Where I don't know. It was fine. It was fine.
All right. Well, maybe I don't need to go back and play it then.
I don't know if you're, like, it was fine. I don't know if you're missing out on a whole lot not having played Critter Crunch.
There's a really interesting, I'm looking through sort of the Cappy's kind of history of development, and I feel like at the beginning of their iteration, they started as a studio for hire. There was a lot of licensed games in here. There's a Steven Universe game. There's a Pixar Cars game. They did a Might and Magic game for the DS. And then it gets super weird. There's Super Brothers and Super Time Force and Below and Grindstone, and I'm like, ooh, I'm cool for these guys for like taking, Disney's money for making a Cars video game and parlaying it into these really cool, really artsy, super easy to obsess over kind of games. Super Brothers is an unusual game. It is a very weird experience. Below, I think, as well, has a reputation for being pretty dense. So, what a cool arc of development for these guys.
Yeah, I really wanted to try Below, but it was just, I think it was like an Xbox exclusive for the longest time. And
I believe you're right. Yeah.
By the time it came out and everything else, I had just completely forgotten about it. But it always looked very cool. I played it at in an expo one year. And I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing in this game, but it's just very, it's so mysterious. Kind of can't look away from it.
Yeah. Cool. So this game that I'm playing, and I realize maybe I've not said it in a little bit, is called Grindstone. I'm playing on the Switch, but it's also on Apple Arcade if you have one of those.
Yeah.
And you do, DJ.
I do. I'm still subscribed. I need to finish off Fantasian. So I can, put that on the Game of the Year list, maybe. I don't know. But until then, I'll just continue to give them my money every month, apparently.
Cool. Well, maybe squeeze in a little Grindstone.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's wrap this thing up. If you, dear listener, need any more video game hangover in your brain, you should follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/VGHangover. And you can always get show notes and links and tell us what you thought about this episode at VGHangover.com. You can do a bunch of fun stuff at VGHangover.com. You can get a link to join our Discord to hang out with us and chat about video games. You can get links to donate to Extra Life for us there. And you can also get some information on our year-end wrap-up show and find different ways to get your questions, calls, observations, conversation starters, complaints. Would anybody? No, nobody has complaints. No, that's just ridiculous.
Well, you mean like in general or complaints about the show?
I presumed about the show, but now I'm worried.
Oh, people are just gonna call in and complain about something unrelated? I mean, that's fine.
The airing of grievances. That's one of those.
What's the deal with airline food?
Who are these people? Go to VGHangover.com for all of that stuff. We would love for you to subscribe, rate, and review us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and anywhere else you can get a podcast. And help us out by telling your friends about the show.
Yeah, really help us get the word out, grow the audience, get more people sending in questions for the Drunktacular. Just
it's really what it's all about,
around.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Once again, for the last time this year, we'd like to wait. Really? I think so. Yeah. So,
Possibly.
For the last time in 2021, thank you very much again to Hellbinderman for our intro and outro music. Please head on over to heavyviper.bandcamp.com. Buy up every single album that you see there. That is sort of required.
Nice. That would be a nice thing to do.
It would be a terrific thing to do. Like, imagine how exciting that would be for him.
We will be back next week with holy crap, the Drunktacular. Could we talk about it some more, please?
Wait, next week? Next week we have our music show. And
okay. I got my weeks off.
No, you're right. The live recording of the Drunktacular will be next week.
Well, in my defense, I was drunk for the music show too. So
okay, good. Good to know. Yes, if you want to watch the Drunktacular live, that will be next Friday, December 10th. Otherwise, it will show up in your podcast feed the week after. So,
right.
Up to you.
Okay.
You can attend whichever one fits into your schedule. We won't judge.
Well, thank you for explaining that, because I was totally lost.
I was getting confused myself, so.
We'll be back at some point, probably, definitely, potentially. This is Randy Dickinson.
This is DJ Ross.
Thanks so much for listening to Video Game Hangover. Goodbye.
Good night.